Let's welcome Professor Mike Muller, professional engineer and former DG for Water Affairs, who's joining us for more analysis on this. Prof, a very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Look, in finer detail, right? How important is the maintenance of this tunnel, and what exactly will this be, or what exactly actually will be maintained? How will the maintenance actually be carried out, Prof?
Well, good afternoon to you, Alicia, and your viewers. If I was taking my car in for service, I don't think you would ask me, what exactly they're going to do with it. So, it's a symptom of South Africa at the moment that when people do the right things, everyone panics. Why are they doing this? There must be a problem. But to take your question seriously, we're talking about over 100 kilometers of tunnel that brings the water from those dams in the Lesotho Mountains down into South Africa between Clarence and Bethlehem. And particularly those tunnels towards the ends of the line, as it gets towards South Africa, are in softer rock, which they don't have the advantage of those big hard mountains in Lesotho. And the tunnels in that area have to be lined with concrete and or steel. Now, if you've got a lining, you need to check it. It's the same as looking at your house, and if there's cracks, you fill them. And they last had a look in 2019 and decided that there was going to have to be some kind of rehabilitation and sort of maintenance done. The fact that they could wait from 2019 to 2024, I think shows you that it's not a crisis. This is a sort of regular once every 5-year inspection. But to do this maintenance, they are going to have those tunnels dry so people can work in them. I mean, these are huge tunnels. You can drive a bus through them, 5 meters in diameter. So, it's quite a lot of work to go through, do the lining and make sure that it's all going to be adequate for the next 20 or 25 years. And I always say, let's celebrate when people do the maintenance at the right time rather than complain when things break down because maintenance wasn't done. And that's tended to be the problem in South Africa in general. I have to say, particularly ahead of the elections. So personally, I'm pleased that they're doing it, and I'm confident that it's not a crisis.
But Prof, 6 months or more to maintain. What are some of the possible challenges then could result from the shutdown? I'm sure you heard before we spoke that the relevant authorities aren't necessarily anticipating any challenges arising from the maintenance, and they do seem to have alternative and intermediary plans should they go over the 6-month maintenance period.
Yes, indeed. And I was just looking because I thought we better make sure that we're kind of well informed. I checked the capacity of that Sterkfontein Dam, which is high up at the edge of the Drakensberg, just on the border between Free State and KZN. Now, we always talk about the Lesotho dams as being big and very important. I think we should know that if you added the capacity of Katsi and Mohali Dam in Lesotho together, it still wouldn't be as much as the water that's in Sterkfontein. And Sterkfontein is the dam that's kept as a strategic reserve, just in case it's necessary. It stays full for years and years and years in case there's a big drought, or as in this case, if there should be a delay in the tunnel maintenance, we'll be able to draw on it, and that could give us even more water than the full storage of both Lesotho dams. So I really don't think there's a worry. Even if there was a 3 or 6 month delay, we would still be able to manage. The other thing which you should know, and people perhaps don't understand, is that when we have water stored in Vaal Dam, it evaporates very quickly. And the engineers have been saying for a long time, can't we keep the water up in Lesotho where it won't evaporate because it'll be more efficient? The Lesotho government says, no, we want to generate hydropower when it runs to South Africa, so we don't want to just hold it up there. But actually, it's not a bad thing for us in South Africa to keep those dams up in Lesotho full because we lose much less through evaporation, and it's more efficient and gives us a better guarantee. So that's another perspective that people sometimes miss.
Very interesting indeed. Thank you for mentioning that, Prof. I mean, a lot of people have been saying, I mean, judging by the recent water woes in the country, Prof, how much will this then affect the current water supply in those affected areas?
You know, the problem of our water supply in the cities actually doesn't have much to do with what's in the dams. What we do know about in the dams is they are carefully used to make sure that even if there's the worst drought in sort of 50 or 100 years, we can still keep supplying water to the big cities of Gauteng and the places around. So the water shortages that we hear about in the cities here in Gauteng is really, there've been limits set to how much water should be taken out of the Vaal system every year, and the cities are taking more than that. Now, if they really needed that, we could probably supply it, but we all know that we're losing an awful lot of money of water through leaks and wastage, and some, quite considerable overuse. And we should be basically saying, yes, there's water in those dams, but just because there's water in those dams doesn't.
Professor, I'm losing you there.
Need to say as much as we want. What happens if there's a drought in 26? Ourselves looking stupid, looking like storing it carefully in case of a drought.
And Professor, I'm losing you there. I think it might be a signal issue. But very quickly, just to wrap up the interview, authorities have been urging residents to use water sparingly. But do you get the sense that the communities or residents actually heed this warning? And what can they do to mitigate, shortages of water?
Yeah, I think the communities are really cross. You and I, we know if we travel the streets of Joburg, we see an awful lot of water running down the streets and it shouldn't be. And I think that's the same in a number of cities. And people are saying, well, if the city loses all that water, why should I bother to save? Well, that's stupid. Just because one side doesn't do its job properly doesn't mean to say the other side shouldn't do the job properly. And I do think that we need to use water carefully. Our cities need to work better. We need to reduce the water loss through leaks and for people taking it illegally and not paying for it. And if we can do that, we have more than enough water to see us through. And by the way, in 2028 or 29, there'll be a new dam in Lesotho, and we'll have even more water available. But we've got to be careful until then.
Hopefully so. Professor, thank you so much for your input this afternoon. That is Professor Mike Muller, the professional engineer as well as former DG for Water Affairs, joining us on, of course, that maintenance of the water tunnel that is going to take about 3 to 6 months.